And the demonstrative attack on Kyiv took place exactly when the leaders of the G7 gathered in Canada. And President Zelensky was also flying to that meeting to seek help. However, the head of the United States didn't even notice this blatant war crime by the Kremlin and urgently left to deal with another war. Was this really the reason for Trump's hasty departure from the summit in Canada? Politicians and the media doubted it for a long time because in the end, when it came to deciding whether to get involved in the Iranian conflict, he first took 2 days to think and then 2 weeks. And just literally the day before yesterday, European diplomats in Geneva were persuading their Iranian counterparts to continue negotiations with the United States and to prevent the escalation of the conflict. So what was the trigger in the last 24 hours? Why did the topic of 2 weeks disappear? What could be the next step after the current US attack on Iran's nuclear facilities? And what conclusions can Ukraine already draw for itself? TSN Week correspondent Oleksandr Zagorodniy has gathered what is known so far.
War in the Middle East is nothing new, but only until America starts to get involved. In recent weeks, the United States has already sent a third aircraft carrier to the region. These floating cities, with tens of thousands of soldiers and hundreds of aircraft, are always accompanied by submarines and missile carriers. Their combined firepower is capable of crushing any resistance from most countries on this planet. But what drew particular attention was the mass takeoff of these B-2 Spirit stealth strategic bombers. However, the main sign that war is near has been these videos from American soldiers.
So, how's your steak and lobster? All good? Almost not bad? I'm ready for war. We're going to war?
American soldiers know that if they're served steak and lobster, it means a military operation is coming. Friday the 13th, Israel launches a combined strike on Iran with missiles, aircraft, and drones. Airfields, missile launchers, nuclear facilities, and government quarters are burning.
In the first 24 hours of the operation, Israel almost completely destroyed Iran's air defense and nearly paralyzed the actions of its air force. In this way, Israel paralyzed Iran's ability to deliver a heavy retaliatory strike.
Military and political analysts are actively discussing this attack, but almost no one is predicting that this is just the beginning of a major special operation. On the night of June 22nd, Donald Trump enters the White House dressing room and puts on his favorite cap, "Make America Great Again." Yes, it is in that very cap, and literally live on air, that he begins to watch as the world's most expensive bombers start delivering devastating strikes with the most powerful non-nuclear bombs. The Pentagon stated that this operation had been prepared for weeks in great secrecy. 7 B-2 bombers took part in the strikes on Iran. They took off from the continental United States. This is the most distant mission they have ever participated in. In total, more than 125 aircraft were involved in the operation. The 14-ton GBU-57 is a guided bunker buster bomb. It is extremely complex and extremely expensive. Boeing has made only 20 of them. Without breaking apart, it burrows into solid rock to a depth of 60 meters and detonates in such a way that it causes a mini earthquake. It is with these bombs that the United States destroys Iran's main nuclear facility, Fordo. It is built deep underground. Another 30 famous Tomahawk cruise missiles destroy secret nuclear facilities in Isfahan and Natanz. Military experts and even politicians would later write, "On Friday the 13th, Israel simply did the dirty work, destroying all of Iran's air defenses so that American bombers could carry out these strikes unhindered." But on the night of June 22nd, Trump made perhaps the most difficult decision of his life. Now he would simply have to speak. If it weren't for him, this war would not have happened. In the middle of the night, Trump comes out to the journalists to make a brief statement.
Our goal was to destroy Iran's nuclear fuel enrichment capabilities and to eliminate the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terrorism. Today, I can announce to the entire world that the strikes were incredibly successful. Iran's main nuclear fuel enrichment facilities have been completely destroyed.
The whole world held its breath. The first to support Trump is Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Congratulations, President Trump. Your bold decision to attack Iran's nuclear facilities with the impressive and righteous power of the United States will change history. President Trump, thank you. People of Israel, thank you.
While the whole world waits to see what will happen next, the only ones to openly come to Iran's defense are the Yemeni Houthis. That's how it is. Iran is calling on international organizations and its allies to respond to the US strikes. And what about Russia, its main strategic partner? By the evening, the Russian Foreign Ministry managed only to issue a strong condemnation on its official website. Wait, is that how you support your strategic partners? Was Iran attacked? Where is the military aid? Where is the severing of diplomatic relations with Israel, with the United States? And where, after all, are those demonstrations at the UN? The Russians always abandon their own. And the whole world is starting to realize this. Why did Israel and the United States attack Iran right now? Former Foreign Minister Pavlo Klimkin has this perspective. Israel, with the support of the United States, had been preparing for this operation for a long time.
They deliberately and very systematically targeted Hamas, Hezbollah, and tried to fight the Houthis in Yemen in order to weaken Iran and all those who could potentially attack Israel.
It is still unknown how Iran will act after these attacks, but it is already clear that this war is very untimely for Ukraine. We decided to weigh all the minuses and pluses. So, the minuses for Ukraine. Oil has already jumped from $70 to $78 per barrel and could rise even further.
Prices could go up. Well, the estimates vary. So there are like $120 per barrel, approximately. If the situation develops according to the worst-case scenario,
Russia will earn more.
Russia will earn more, and accordingly, it will have more money for the war against us.
This week, the Russians carried out horrific strikes on Kyiv. Dozens of people were killed, but these video clips barely made it into the broadcasts of the world's leading media outlets. Attention is focused on the Iran-Israel war. The Russians are taking advantage of this shift in focus and launching their attacks. Moreover, they use Israel's attack on Iran to justify their own aggression.
So why is it allowed for Israel, but not for others?
This is a very dangerous situation. It undermines the very concept of sovereignty, because Putin is also constantly saying, we'll take away this part of Ukraine's sovereignty and that part and another part. And this means we're heading towards some kind of mega escalation in the future.
During any conflict, there is a shortage of weapons. They become less available on the market. But this is not just a disadvantage for Ukraine. Iran supplied Russia with Shiites, and recently, components for these drones. It supplied artillery shells. Now, obviously, it will no longer supply them. Missiles, there is no concrete evidence that Iran sent them, but it is clear that now it won't either. But there are also advantages for Ukraine. Russia is rapidly losing its image as a powerful state. Its allies are realizing that it can no longer help them. Another advantage. All Europe is finally starting to realize the problems on the continent are its own problems, and it's time to start solving them.
This story between Israel and Iran may not benefit us tomorrow, but in the long run it could be positive for us. If the Americans shift their focus to the Far East, to Western Asia, then the Europeans will still have to take care of themselves. And it's better for them to take care of themselves together with us.
Such an unexpected war for the whole world, and for Iran itself, Iran, which has repeatedly promised to destroy, to wipe Israel off the face of the earth, and has openly threatened the US as well. And now, political analysts are wondering whether the Iranian regime itself will survive after these attacks. To appreciate the courage and even the audacity of Israel, just look at the map. See, this is Iran, and over there is Israel. What, you can't see Israel? Well, let's zoom in on the map. So, one of the main conclusions of the Iran-Israel war for us is that even a very small country can defeat a much larger country, one that is many times bigger in terms of territory and human resources. The key is to have a modern army and the latest weaponry. And it's also preferable to have powerful allies backing you, especially if they have the best bombers and the most powerful bombs in the world in their arsenal. Oleksandr Zagorodniy, Volodymyr Ostapenko, Ivan Pavlovich. The same week, Hour+1. United News Marathon.